Hey, it's me, Lexi. Da, 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 da. Hello, my fellow creatives. Yes, it's been a ridiculous amount of time since I've been on here. I haven't forgotten or given up. As the video title suggests, we've had some life going on around here, and that caused delays. I will briefly touch on that and then move on as we have in real life. Also, yes, this video is my longest yet, I think. I have a lot to tell you as it's been 7 or so months since I was last here, and I've done a lot, and I'd like to give each project more than 1 second flashed up on the screen to show you. I hope you don't mind and you stay with me through the entire video. Okay, on with the story. I originally was doing my voiceover for this on around New Year's Day. Yes, that long ago. And a couple of days after that, my husband wasn't feeling well, and it had been a weird reoccurring problem. However, this time he got progressively worse and he turned yellow. So we knew there was a liver issue. We knew he needed medical attention, but having been unemployed and with no insurance, we had to secure some. So that did take a couple of weeks to raise the funds to get it, and by then he was looking almost lime green. When he went in, the initial prognosis was worrying as they weren't sure what it was and implied the C word. Thankfully, it turned out to be gallstones trapped in his bile duct. However, that surgery needed was only performed overseas and not locally, and the insurance we had procured only covered 60% of the costs. That is another story, and the whole thing is long-winded, so fast forward. He went away and had the surgery. They did place a stent in his bile duct as part of the procedure, which we found out it was temporary, and he would have to go back up and have it removed. Ay, ay, ay. A financial situation we'll have to revisit later. He managed to catch something at Leahy when he returned. So when he returned, that made his flight home and recovery uncomfortable. He was back home for exactly a week, and he woke up early in the morning not feeling right. And he went from bad to worse in a few hours, and thankfully I had already secured a lift to the hospital with a friend. But in that short time frame, he went downhill very fast, and we both thought he was going to die right here in the house. It was very scary for us both, and it traumatized him in various ways that affected his recovery time. Another long story short, he had to have emergency surgery. However, due to whatever he caught, they had to delay it as he had borderline pneumonia, and it wouldn't be safe to put him under anesthesia. So they kept him drugged up, trying to fight it, but they knew they had to get the surgery done. So a couple of days later, they risked it, and the doctor told me in recovery that it was really good that they did it, because he had never seen a gallbladder in such bad shape. It had become perforated and septic, and was literally bursting with stones, and he had no idea how any had even gotten out to get stuck in his bile duct to begin with. I personally figure that the reason it became perforated was because it was so full and they were, trying to push their way out. I was also really angry over the fact that I had suggested an ultrasound initially when he was here, also when he was overseas, and then also when he was back here. And if they had done that, because all they did was MRIs and CAT scans of him, and I feel the situation was totally missed and could have been avoided. But I have to move forward from that, which I have. So in the interim, right, the day of the surgery, sitting in the cold waiting room, I then caught whatever he had. So I literally I came home. I promised him I'd be there for him after the surgery, but the surgery took hours longer than they said, which of course had me really worried to begin with. But I was sitting in air conditioning, and even the nurse that normally sits there had gone home, But I just knew I was fading. I felt so terrible. I ended up I couldn't wait for him any longer, and I felt so bad. I left him a note. So I went home, and I didn't function. I lived in bed for 3 days straight, only getting up to deal with our cats. So all of that in and of itself was a challenge mentally and physically. He has a huge scar on his rib cage, and at this point, well, it wasn't a scar at the time. It was, it's a scar now. He had a huge cut basically on his rib cage that he was healing from, and he'd also been bedridden for almost a month, and he had to activate his muscles again physically. He needed assistance walking and building up his strength. It was a long road to recovery, but thankfully he has. He actually did months ago. However, we have spent a lot of time reconnecting and growing, and I also got my mojo back. And so it's just working on project after project, knowing I had to come and get this video finished, but preferring to work on yet another unplanned project. It's been months now, and I knew I really had to get this video out and done, as I really want to move forward with this channel. So back to the story. So to finish up, we are sure he got a job he applied for last year. Ridiculous last year. And we'll finally have insurance so he can get the last surgery, because that was supposed to happen in March or April at the latest. And it's bothered us that he has something inside of him that was meant to be temporary, but our hands are tied financially. We did run a GoFundMe, which did at least pay for the initial surgery and our expenses that we've had, but we're still in debt up to our eyeballs. And most importantly, we want to really fully move forward from this trauma, and he needs to have that last surgery for us to be able to do that. So that's been my last 6 or so months in a definitive nutshell, as I've left out tons of details for brevity's sake. Okay, so now about what is up on my screen. So the footage I've been playing shows me working on finishing some of the various scrapbooks I showed you in my first video. I did way more than that again, but I had my mojo back. I didn't want to film any of the other projects, and honestly, as I'm not posting tutorials and it's so many projects, be thankful, because this video would be like 4 hours long if I did a time lapse of each one. I mean, I'm sure you can already see through this, like the time lapse was just racing through. So I admit this is not the video I'd planned when I was signing off on my last video, where I'd taken a step back from the sewing. I was meant to actually be doing a painting on this video, but yeah, it's still in the works, so no harm, no foul. Instead, I got to the scrapbook with a mistake in it, which led to me also finishing the other scrapbooks I'd made previously. And I do believe I've linked below the original Made It videos that I used to make these. That was pretty straightforward, but I inevitably made mistakes, right? This is a couple of hours of footage time-lapsed into like minutes that I made. Now, in my infinite wisdom, I had some dies because I saw another video, which I've linked below, of a really cool idea I wanted to add into them. But I thought I could use a die that I have already to save some time. But yeah, that didn't really work the way it was supposed to. So these mini books have slight issues, which I fixed, but I don't love how they turned out. However, you do these things and you learn from them and you move on, right? You know, how are we going to learn anything if we don't try? So I also got into sewing a few items, and I had the idea of things I could sew to sell. And I've since come to the conclusion I really don't want to spend my time race sewing, making things to sell, and I want to just enjoy the process, and also to tackle the gajillion projects I've wanted to do over the years. I've had to realistically ask myself if it was going to be truly worth it to me, not only profit-wise, but sanity-wise. My sanity has been an issue in the past year. As mentioned before, we closed our business and essentially we've been unemployed since February of 2024. We've had a few hustles, but yeah, we've had some hard times, and so my mental state wasn't always where it needed to be. Now, I did find a commission-only job in sales, but then the situation with my husband happened, and that just wasn't working out. And hubby is waiting to hear back on this job that he'd really love to have. And I'm not looking for any sympathy and definitely not trying to be a Debbie Downer. I'm just saying stuff happens and it can affect your ability and desire to create and work on things. And that's okay. Now, back on topic. Do not laugh. I did get back to the sewing, not only the items I was testing, but I got a new project cut out and started working on the bird kaleidoscope quilt. And my joy came in the absolutely weird fix I found for me getting a 1/4-inch seam allowance. However, that's really not working as good as I would have liked it to, so I'm still trying to figure it out with this machine. When I do, I'll probably do a separate video just on that so that anyone else possibly affected the same way I was by switching sewing machine brands can possibly find some solution that works for them. For anyone who sews wondering what the issue is, to keep it short, the feed dogs are located differently in a different location than my previous machine, so the 1/4-inch foot solutions with this machine don't make any sense and they don't always work that great. So that's it. Now, I've taken photos of the few sewing items I made to sell, and I'm going to keep them or give them as gifts. I do not have any photos of the squares that have been sewn for the kaleidoscope because, again, I was still having issues with my seam allowance, and there are many that are fine, but many that need to be unpicked carefully as it's all on the bias, and resew them. I also made sling bags for my husband and myself, a new wallet. I did another scrapbook from scratch. That one I'll be showing finished in a future video as the person I'm making it for has given me permission to show it with the photos inserted. Now going forward, I have, let me see, the painting, papercraft projects, a sewing machine fix. I'm working on the quilts I've been working on simultaneously, but if you've gotten any feel for my personality at all, you just know that yes, I found a couple of things I went ape over, and I'm excited to start them. So one I'll tell you right now is this phrenology wheel, and I'll link that in the video below. I loved the idea and the project, but it was so close to January when I found it. And honestly, my garden is something for growing a bit of food and not something I tend to as much as I should. So there wouldn't be much to put in it there. And yeah, and as you know, the beginning of the year went to hell in a handbasket and we've had bug issues. So my garden is almost nil right now anyway. And I also know I've seen people do phrenology wheels with clouds, with all types of things. But yeah, I couldn't think of anything else to use it for. So I've put it on the shelf as an idea to pursue. However, that only happened because I came across a post for something called a cyanometer, and I was like, oh, that looks like a phrenology wheel, but it's all about the color. And I love swatching. So yeah, coming at some point, hopefully this year, is a project I've already worked out most of the logistics on, as I tend to overcomplicate everything. And I will be doing a swatching project based on that idea. And I'm going to probably put it into a playlist as I plan on filming all of it. But I'm not going to obviously do it all at once. Because I know I am not the only one who loves swatching and watching others swatch. Am I right? So these are the photos you've been looking at are of the finished scrapbooks, including the cool Halloween one I made for Megan, and also the few small items I sewed. And I was also asked by Megan to fix a cushion for a miniature chair she had and make it Halloween themed. So here I put up the before and after of those pictures, which is somewhere here in this mix of photos. I also did a box bag, the type you put your toiletries in or whatever. Anyway, lots of photos to show you here. I do intend to get my butt into gear with this channel. I'm still figuring it out, to be honest. I got good advice that said just do it and get them up. They can be terrible, and they are, but just get into the habit of filming and editing and posting. Now, I know this is only the 5th video, and admittedly, I have not been super duper consistent, but the unemployment thing, as mentioned, has played a part in that, but obviously, my husband's situation. And it is really crazy that when you have less time to do things, you actually do more, and vice versa, because I've had more time to do things and I've done less. So yeah, it is what it is. I hope I can find the most efficient but quality way of filming for you guys soon so that I can get more filmed and post more often. It's all a learning curve working with what equipment you have and the way your particular home is laid out, and there's no two setups that are the same. And in the interim, I'm in the talks with a local high-end place to make items to sell there. And I feel that'll be my happy place, doing one-of-a-kind items that are a mixture of sewn, hand-painted, sometimes with thread painting and quilting. That is also a work in progress and a part of my journey I look forward to sharing, hopefully in the near future. I say all of this for you to know I have not only not forgotten about this channel, but I think about it a lot. I have various formats I'm going to be trying over the coming months, as I have planned a planned opinion piece as of today. Another one to show the finishing of one project and the story behind it. And I also wanted to try a weekly format of this is what I got done this week, to push me to be more consistent and to show up for myself, but also hopefully challenge you to see what you could get done every week if you just stick to it, Then lastly, as just mentioned, there's also the new journey of making things to sell, but more along my personal artistic journey that I wanted to pursue and not just random projects I'm making. I guess I should also mention there's another channel, or actually a couple, but let me focus, that my husband and I have been working on starting. Again, we started filming with that, never posted, so we've decided to now start it with ASMR videos that my husband has been working on. Now, I will give a link to that channel in my next video in case you're interested, as I know the first video for that channel should be up by then. If you've made it to the end and actually watched it all the way through without impatiently scrolling forward, thank you. I need that watch time to add up to eventually be monetized on here. I know I need way more followers, but it's all a process. I truly appreciate you taking your precious time and using it to watch and hear my Delulu creative and regular life. I hope me getting a few things done and dusted inspires you to pull out a few almost finished projects and get over the finish line so that you can start on some newer projects that you are gung-ho to start. But hey, if you just want to start the new ones, go ahead. No judgment here. I'm fairly certain I'm going to continue to do that because I'm finding the sidestep away from a larger project to do a smaller one gives me a break and also the dopamine fix that I need by finishing something smaller and feeling accomplished. The important thing is to follow your passion, do what excites you, and enjoy the journey along each step of the way. I will be back again soon, I promise. Your guess is as good as mine as to what idea is going to inspire me the most to actually film it and get it up next. Feel free to take a guess and put it in the comments. Okay, so as you can see, I'm out of footage and photos, so I'm going to get out of your hair and you can go and be creative. I love you now. Bye-bye.